What's up, guys? We're back for another video. Today I'm going to tackle one of the questions I get asked the most often, which is where do I start when I have no money? I'm going to break down 6 ways and 6 things you can do to get started now and get some momentum going. The only limitations you have are self-imposed. The number one thing is how bad you want it. I'm Kevin Gordon, your tour guide for all things business, entrepreneurship, and mindset. Let's dive right into it, guys, with point number 1. Everyone starts at the bottom. You need to get rid of your pride. So much like Drake would say, start at the bottom, now we're here. Now here's the thing, is today, you have a disadvantage versus when I grew up. And that's that you are constantly bombarded on social media by all of these people, entrepreneurs, wealthy people, celebrities, athletes who have these like crazy, affluent, interesting, extravagant lives. And it makes you want that. It makes you want the penthouse, the supercar, all that stuff. And I get that I'm part of the problem in that sense. The difference is instead of trying to create some sort of impossible reality or goal or expectation for you, I actually want to break down the things I did when I was a teenager and in my early 20s that really set me up for success later on. When I was either 15 or 16, I got what would end up being one of my only traditional jobs ever that I've had in my life, working at a grocery store. Bruh. So one of the things I really struggled with was the union. And the fact that it being a unionized business made it almost impossible for people to get fired from that job. Now you might think,
hey Kevin, that's great. I want to be unfireable.
Well, here's the thing. What that does to the culture of the business, what that does to like the heart and the incentivization of the workers, it really cripples them. When you tell people like, hey, like short of doing something is so extreme, like stealing from the business or hurting someone, like physically or verbally assaulting them, like you can work here forever. What that does is de-incentivizes people to do anything other than the bare minimum to not get fired. And so the really difficult but extremely valuable lesson I learned at this grocery store was that in that environment, aka like the wrong place, it didn't matter how much I did, how much I accomplished, how hard I worked, I would still be compensated at that same hourly rate. That put me in a weird spot because I constantly found myself asking the question, does it make sense to really push myself that hard? Does it make sense to work 2, 3, 4, 5 times harder than anyone else here? Here's the thing, is if I hadn't had that job, it wouldn't have polarized me against unionized labor or just like fixed income. And I wouldn't have like this like context and perspective that I have now, which is really, I think people should be compensated based on the value they bring to the table. So what I didn't know at that time is I was very much developing and reinforcing the same characteristics and attributes, which I would later leverage to build successful businesses. It's that work ethic, that focus, that discipline, the desire to do more than just the minimum would serve me so well. So you got to start somewhere because that's what's going to help you understand what it's like to be at that base. And honestly, maybe you're the type of person who actually fits more into that environment. Like obviously a lot of people want that protection of a union, and it just showed me what type of person I was and what type of person I wanted to be, and also what I didn't want in the future. And that was by far more valuable than the money which I was paid. All right, point number 2, when you're in your teens and early 20s, aka earlier in your career, don't chase the money. Instead, focus on knowledge, skills, experience. So I told you guys I had that orthodox job working at a grocery store, but what I was also doing at that time was even more valuable than what I was getting from the grocery store. And that's that I was teaching myself the basics of e-commerce. I was learning digital marketing, HTML, ads, copywriting. I created an eBay store. That was my first like side hustle, or even like, I guess, business you could call it, where I was buying and selling things. Much like the grocery store situation, my compensation was actually monetary. It was all right. But the biggest benefit I got was the lessons I was learning, the knowledge I was gathering, the skills I was building. So I wasn't necessarily driven by money at this point. Like I was just in love with the process. I love you! Of learning, of growing, of experiencing the world. And at this point, YouTube wasn't what it is today at all. Online learning and education wasn't nearly as prevalent or as accessible as it is today. So what I ended up doing was just going out there, getting my hands dirty by actually building like an account on eBay. Like I didn't watch like in a tutorial on how to create an eBay store or like fundamentals of e-commerce, marketing, psychology, arbitrage. I literally just figured it out as I went. And the funny thing is, like, those terms, certainly the ones that are more complex, like entrepreneurship or arbitrage, I had absolutely no idea what those meant at age 15. However, I did actually have a good practical understanding of the concepts. So it was the pursuit of knowledge and skill development that actually made my career very much like a slingshot. So while I wasn't rapidly accelerating forward with like a linear and consistent thrust right from day one, it was more of a slingshot approach. So I was pulling back, and in some ways like not making a lot of money and seemingly advancing very far. But eventually what happened was that tension on that rubber band was so strong that when it was released, boom, massive trajectory, massive momentum, massive velocity, which I was able to leverage and just carry right into my 20s and then build some really, really epic stuff with some epic people. Point number 3. That's 3. Let's go. All right. Eliminate distractions. Guys, it doesn't matter whether you are living in a hut somewhere. If you have internet in a hut, that's pretty cool. Nice job. Or you are a billionaire. You're Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos. You have the exact same amount of minutes in every single day. One very, very consistent thing I see amongst high performers is a relentless commitment and obsession with maximizing every single minute in their day, whether they're awake or they're asleep. Everything is optimized. Everything is efficient. So here's the thing. Today, everyone has some sort of time vampire in their life. One of the most common ones I see, Netflix. Get rid of that. Another one I see, social media abuse, particularly Instagram. Oh my God, the amount of time you can sink on that, get it out of here. Next one, video games. Fortnite, more like Fortno. Xbox, console games, man, I spent a lot of time on that. It's gonna be a no from me, dog.
Yeah, I like this.
And then other ones are important, but you gotta keep them in check. YouTube can be great, but it can also be a vortex if you don't manage it. Sleeping, again, it's really easy to oversleep, overnap, overrest as well. Although I do recommend getting good sleep and using YouTube the right way. But use them the wrong way, nah. Now let's make this more tangible by creating a conservative scenario where someone spends 2 hours a day on Netflix and social media 6 days a week. That's going to be 50 hours per month, and that's going to be 600 hours per year. Now, don't kid yourself, 600 hours per year is enough time to completely change your life. That's enough time to get in great shape. That's enough time to start a business. That's enough time to get multiple promotions. That's enough time to find better friends. It's enough time to find yourself. If you can eliminate those time vampires from your life, that 2 hours a day, 6 days a week, and pour that into something that's relevant, that's interesting, that's aligned with your interests and your priorities and your goals in life. You do that for 1 year, it's going to change your life completely. Do that for 10 years, and it's not 600 hours, it's 6,000 hours.
Wow.
Now, it can be really difficult to shift your hobbies, to shift your mindset, to shift the way you're living your life. I always recommend baby steps for this sort of thing. Instead of trying to go cold turkey on everything, just drop one thing first. Like, for example, just cut Netflix. Create a really clear expectation for yourself and say, I'm not going to watch Netflix, maybe only on Sundays. To me, that's like a healthy, reasonable amount of time to spend on it. The more you are cognizant and disciplined with every single minute of the day, the further and faster you're going to be able to move towards the life you've always wanted for yourself. Point number 4, reducing expenses. Guys, I'm talking about Starbucks. I'm talking about eating out. No! Shopping and buying things you don't really need.
God, please, no!
There will be a time and a place where that will become more viable in the future. Although I'll argue that if you build these great skills and habits and discipline and focus now, you probably won't be so tempted by those things. But there will be a time where you can have those things. It's just really important to understand that every single dollar you spend on that coffee or that watch or purse is going to put you further back from getting you where you want to go. So let's think about it this way. If you're making $15 per hour and you want to buy a new watch or a purse that's $300, you're looking at between 25 to 30 hours of work. Once you factor in sales tax and once you factor in income tax, that's 25 to 30 hours of your life for a watch or for a purse. Once you actually start to look at the true cost of things, aka you are trading time in your life for a material object that doesn't actually bring you any true fulfillment, satisfaction, doesn't move you further towards your dream life, it's a really scary concept. If you do things right in business or your career, you can get to a point where you can spend that money without it actually taking your time. But if you're in that position in your early stages, where you are working at an hourly rate, you need to understand there is a very direct and clear correlation that $15 an hour, it's going to take you 25 to 30 hours to buy that purse or that watch. And so one of the easiest ways to make healthy financial decisions in terms of reducing your budget and unnecessary expenditures is to create a Google spreadsheet and actually document everything you spend in a month that's not necessary. So necessary things are going to be cost of living, for example. So shelter, that's going to be food and not eating out, but like buying food at a grocery store and preparing it yourself. Those are the necessities. And then basically look at the amount of money you're making in a month and then how much of that income is going over to things that are unnecessary, that are luxuries, and then try to reduce them systematically over time. So put together that spreadsheet and see what it totals. You're probably gonna be pretty surprised with how much money you're spending on things that don't even really make you happy or move you forward in life. It's often even 33% of your income. That's a really scary thought. I recommend getting that number down to well under 10%.
So Kevin, where do I spend that money, which I'm now saving?
Well, I'm glad you asked because that leads us directly to point number 5. Experiment and find what you like. The idea of people choosing a career path in their teens is ludicrous to me. It is absolutely insane. You know so little about yourself at that point. Get out there and volunteer at different things. Volunteer at a business, volunteer at a charity. Go and get mentored by someone. So reach out to someone on Instagram who's living the life you want to live. Start developing skills because you might have this idea in your head that, hey, I really want to be a digital marketer. I really want to get into e-commerce. I really want to be an entrepreneur. And you might find in reality, you like the idea of those things. You don't like the practical day-to-day execution. And then analyze, be honest with yourself, create a feedback loop, have that internal dialogue, and then start to make decisions and choices on what direction you're going to move in based on this new data which you're gaining. And eventually what's going to happen is, the way I look at it is, you've got this whole world at your disposal. You've got 360 degrees you could go, right? You could walk north, west, east, south, whatever direction you want. Eventually what's going to happen is you're going to be like, oh, I actually feel pretty pulled to the west for whatever reason. Maybe because you're someone who's like highly creative and wants a lot of freedom. And you're going to have, okay, now you've got like a 90-degree axis. You know, you're going in that general direction. Every single time you try something new, what's going to happen is that axis is going to close. You're going to get to 45 degrees. Eventually, you're going to have like a 5-degree variance, and you're going to be moving towards one very, very specific direction. You're going to know that the career paths and lifestyles within that 5 degrees are going to be pretty narrow in general. There's not a lot of things to choose from in there, and that's a good thing. But unless you do the work, unless you explore and look in all different directions on that 360, you'll never know what's in the other directions. You'll never know if you don't explore them, if you don't go and see what's out there, if you don't talk to people, if you don't try. And you might find out you hate them, but that's a win. That's a positive, because by eliminating different options or possibilities, you're moving closer towards the best one for you. Guys, point number 6, we made it. This is my favorite part. It's taking action. This is where most people fail. It's, you've done all this work, you've put in all this thought. People just get paralyzed, they get scared, they get lazy, they make excuses, whatever the reason is. You have to just work towards this thing that you choose. Once you establish a direction, you have to work towards it like your life depends on it, because it actually does. And what I mean by that is, you might not literally die if you don't pursue it, but the possibility, the hope, the chance of you becoming the person that you want to be, living that dream life where you fulfill your potential and become the best version of yourself, that person will die. That idea will die. That possibility will die. And that is a tragedy.
I am dead inside.
You want to keep that alive. Keep that person alive. Give them a hope. They will die unless you take action, and take action at an extreme level and consistently. That's taking chances. That's pushing through the tough times. When you have imposter syndrome, when you have doubt, when you're tired, when you're scared, when you're uncertain, it means keeping going to keep that best version of yourself, that potential alive. If you have access to the internet to be watching this video, if you have the ability to understand the words I am saying to you, you have already won the lottery. You have a massive competitive advantage, and you need to remove the idea from your head that you are incapable of doing what you want to do, because you've already got that foundation which is required. All right, guys, that's it for this one. If you enjoyed this video, you know what to do. Like, comment, subscribe, and share. I'll see you next time.